Hey, greetings friends, I'm Glenn Thomas, and in this video we're continuing on in a series on layering drums and field recordings to make bigger, more emotionally impactful sounds for your songs and your mixes. If you're new to the channel, so glad that you're with us. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Join our community. We would love to have you. We're talking everything music, creativity, and beyond. Let's dive in. Tonight, we are continuing on with the series on taking field recorded sounds and making them sound bigger by layering them together with various other sounds. Tonight, we're working on the snare drum, making that a big, tight sound. So let me just run through some of these samples. I went through and picked out a few of my favorite moments from longer tracks. So you can see these are pretty long recordings of just field recordings, walking around a venue, having some fun with a recorder. But that being said, this first track is the snare drum. So take a listen to that. Pretty dry, pretty standard. Different intensities. Okay, what about this one? I like that one. That's the one we're going to work with then. Now, some of these other sounds, let's just take a listen. This is a djembe. And then a little bit of a tambourine sound. And then this is actually snapping. Snapping in a big room. So that's essentially the sounds I'm going to work with. So we're going to take all of these sounds, we're going to layer them together to make one snare drum that sounds better than just a standard snare drum. So let's get to work. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and line up some of these waves here. So this is our snare drum. We'll line it up right on the marker here. Boom, right about there. We'll take the djembe, just delete a section out so that I can separate it. Again, we'll try and line this up pretty good. For this track, this was the jingles of the tambourine just kind of rolling around, so I think we'll just kind of line this up. I might turn this one up just to be able to see a little bit more there, and then we'll just kind of line up that biggest section there and zoom in, try and get this lined up. Looks good. Since we're in here, we'll take this one over a little bit more, just about there. And then for this one, this is our snap. Let's try and get that lined up as well. Okay, so we've roughly lined these up. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and cut all of them across here. Command E to do that. Select all of these. And let's just delete this out. Okay, so we've got a bit more of a clean slate here. Let's take a listen to what we've got now. Great, so the initial hit sounds like it all times out pretty well. Let's take and let's cut all of these tracks and just delete that portion. So the first thing I noticed is this djembe here ringing out and then getting cut off. So what I want to do with that is actually just take and fade off into that clip so it sounds more like this. That seems like it's a pretty good curve. I might give it a little bit more body for a little bit longer. Yeah, that seems pretty good. Okay, now let's listen back to the standard snare that I recorded. Seems like it does about the same thing, so I'm going to taper that a little bit more. Yeah, that sounds good. And I'll change this curve just a little bit. Sounds good. Okay, so now let's go down to our jingles and just take a listen. Yeah, that seems like it hits pretty well. Give it a little bit of a fade in here so that it's not quite as abrasive. Now let's take a listen to the snaps. Great, and I like that. So let's just change a little bit of a tail off there. Now let's come in and look at our volumes here. I adjusted up the jingles. They seemed pretty good. The snap I feel like could come up a little bit too. So what am I looking for here? Essentially I'm looking for how loud can I take this before it actually peaks. And you can tell when it's peaking because it'll start to actually run into the edges down here. And it actually looks like down on the bottom, it might be just a touch. So we'll bring it back down like that. Now let's take a listen. Okay, that sounds pretty good. So let's listen now to what this whole layered snare sounds like. That's a good start. Now, the things I noticed, there's too much djembe. So let's actually just take and turn down this clip, and it was at -6, so let's take it to -12. Yeah, that sounds better already. Jingles seem a touch loud as well, so we'll take those down to -10. That sounds better. Now, also, the snap I'm not picking up too much, so I'm going to turn it all the way up to 0. Pretty good. I still think I could use more of that snap. I think what it needs is some compression because I'm actually seeing a bit of peaking happening over here. So we'll go Command F for the search and we'll say compress. Boom. Let's grab the compressor, drop it on, and we want a fairly fast attack and a pretty fast release as well. This might distort a little bit, but let's see what happens. Bring down my threshold a little. Okay, still needs to come down more. Okay, faster attack. Yeah, that's pretty good. Cool. And then we will high pass this all the way up. Give a bit of a boost right through the mid-range. That sounds better. Okay, now let's take a listen all together. I hear the secondary click that seems to happen. So let's just see if we taper this off a little bit faster, if that helps that. Big time. That's starting to sound better. So let's take now and apply a low cut to the tracks that need a bit of a cut there. And I'm going to go with the 160 cut. I have another video where I made these, so if you haven't watched that, I'll put it up in the cards above. So the djembe definitely needs some low end rolled off of it. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. It just adds a little bit of body, but not too much low end, which is about what we want. Low cut 60 on the jingles, and we already high passed the snap. So I think we're good. I think that's pretty good. I might bring down the jingles just a little bit more, -15, 5 dB. I guess that's not a little bit. I like that though. I like the ambience that it's giving. So that sound versus just the standard snare that I recorded all together. Yeah, that's way better. I like that a lot. Layering field recordings and other samples together to make big, impactful sounds is such a great way to get more emotional impact and response from your tracks and from your music, and that's what we're looking for. So hopefully you found this video to be helpful. If you did, I would love a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you in our community. So again, thanks for watching, and with that, I will see you on the next one.